So, good morning to you, fellow Zambian citizens. So today, Saturday, as you are all aware, Parliament continues to sit as we head towards the dissolution of Parliament, which is likely to happen on Tuesday next week. Now, I have said so many things in the last 5 years that I've been a member of Parliament. Chances are that some of you have been paying attention to what I've been saying. Some of you have liked the submissions I've been making. Some of you have not liked me, which is normal for me. I understand that I am obviously not Jesus Christ to be liked by everyone. Neither am I, a banknote for every one of you to like me. But specifically for today, I want you, even if you hate me, even if you don't like me, for today, I want you to pay attention to this message that I am sending out to you, the Zambian people. And especially this message, I would want it to reach His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema. So you are aware that Parliament has been considering from Monday this week up to Tuesday next week, we have been given a task to consider 74 bills in such a period of time, short period of time. It's been a roller coaster. We have had to rush through bills, important bills. Some bills have gone without any debate. But today, I want to specifically speak to one bill that is coming before consideration. It is the Electoral Process Amendment Bill. So the Electoral Commission of Zambia is proposing to amend the law that governs how elections are managed. This law is very important because it guides the mandate of the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Was it necessary to amend this law? Yes. It was necessary that the Electoral Process Act be amended specifically to deal with what has been included or the changes that have been made to the Constitution because of what happened during Bill 7. Remember, Bill 7 has brought in issues of proportionate representation and mixed member proportional representation, as they call it, right? So for that to take effect, there needed to have been some changes in the electoral process law. But Abanesu, the Electoral Commission of Zambia, have taken advantage of this window to slot in some other provisions to change the law that they operate under. Bane, I have said this, nalirandana mailo kwebati, tatufule tuanaka ukukwata omutende. We should not be tired of having peace. The peace we have been enjoying since 1964. Nobody should be allowed to do anything that jeopardizes that peace. What is being proposed in the Electoral Process Amendment may set stage for trouble. Ala na kanyererenga wakapimpirila kalasuma. When you deliberately do imingalato, chances are that you may step on things that can lead to trouble. And I want to appeal to the President of this Republic of Zambia. Can we stop this madness being proposed by the Electoral Commission of Zambia? Let me tell you what they're proposing. First of all, for so many years, stakeholders have been suggesting, let us create or let us enact a law that will specifically deal with the political parties. The political parties bill. Because currently we don't have any law that deals with political parties, that governs political parties. What we deal with right now is the Societies Act. Now, the Societies Act was not enacted to deal with specifically political parties. The Societies Act deals with the societies and organizations. So when you want to have the organization, a club, and everything else, you go to the Societies Act. This is not a law that was meant to manage politics. The Societies Act simply regulates organizations, societies, and the like. That is why some of the things we speak about are not, especially the things that are being proposed in the Electoral Process Act, Amendment Act, are not anywhere close to what is contained in the Societies Act. As an example, the Societies Act has got no terms such as the Secretary General. Tamwaba. Societies Act nangumwamkulembesha political parties does not dictate that Mutwebe who is going to be your SG, who is going to be your president. There's nothing like that in the Societies Act. So when the Electoral Commission of Zambia today proposes that we want now to be seeing an adoption certificate signed by the Secretary General and the President, they are introducing things that are not there in the law. Number one, Vane, the qualification of a candidate to stand at any level of elections, councillor, mayor, MP, president, is clearly spelled out under the Constitution in Article 100. Especially 100 speaks to presidential candidate, but Article 77 also prescribes criteria. Okay? So, the inclusion, if very kuchinja number ifunde by Electoral Commission of Zambia to now dictate that a candidate must now have a certificate, an adoption certificate, signed by a Secretary General and President. First of all, under the requirement for one to be eligible to stand in the Constitution, there is no requirement for an adoption certificate. So they are proposing a new addition to the requirement for you to be eligible to stand. Now, this is against the Constitution. Remember, those of you who are familiar with the law, you don't introduce laws that goes against what is in the Constitution. So when you bring in the adoption certificate, the adoption certificates are merely for administrative purposes for political parties. They should not be introduced as another requirement for you to be eligible to participate in an election. That is contravening the Constitution, is raping the Constitution, is mutilating our laws. There is no requirement whatsoever for anything called the adoption. An adoption certificate should not even be a word. It's not anywhere in the law. It is simply an administrative tool for political parties so that nobody comes at you, PF or UPND. And therefore, even to insist on an adoption certificate, it is actually not provided for in the law. The insistence should be that candidates who are coming from political parties brings forward a document that is duly signed by recognized officers of that entity. Because the Registrar of Society does not provide for Secretary General. There is not even the word Secretary General at the Registrar of Societies Act. Tamu abapo nefunde iliori akutila Secretary General. I will read what the Societies Act says. Let me read for you. The Societies Act, like I said, regulates organization. Okay? It defines office bearers as any committee or governing or executive body of a society or organization. It means any person who is the president, vice president, chairman, deputy chairman, secretary or treasurer of such society or committee or body who holds the office or position to any of the mentioned above. you can clearly see that ku Societies Act tamwapo nefya Secretary General. So when you introduce new words as the Secretary General should sign an adoption certificate. First of all, adoption certificate itself is a new introduction to our laws. And when you also insist that we want a Secretary General who is recognized, where does the law dictate that you don't panga political party, you must tell the registrar of society how or who is going to be your Secretary General? All these are things that are now being suggested so as to be able to do the unthinkable, to manipulate the elections, to discredit or to remove people that are not, you think, should not participate in the election. Vane, this is creating a stage for trouble. This is the other thing they want to do. They want to, the Electoral Commission of Zambia wants to also now have the power to decide on the election campaign. You remember, fellow citizens, that the issue of the date of election used to be a very contentious issue. Kwale President Abuka, let's have elections on, 20th December. Now, ordinarily, political parties that were ruling would know that they would have access to state machinery. The president would have access to state machinery. So, kubika date during a time when it would be difficult for other competitors to compete. This problem was addressed when the law was amended to now set the date of election in the constitution. And the period of campaigns for general election was also enshrined or now put in the constitution. When the Electoral Commission of Zambia now proposes that they want to now be deciding on the calendar of election, you are now bringing complication. You are now placing power in this organization to change what is written in the constitution, because the constitution now clearly states 90 days period shall be the election, and the date in August has already been prescribed in the constitution. You don't want to have unpredictability. Elections now and the campaign must now be predictable. Everyone must know on such a time to Kakwatama election and the campaign will go for this period. This proposal by the Electoral Commission of Zambia is also another stage, or creating a stage for trouble. The other issue, they want to change the term candidate. Okay? Candidate is defined in the current, Electoral Process Act. They now want to redefine the candidate. Now, the definition relates to where the countries that use a system of first past the post. If we're to number majoritarian, the 50+1. So the definition they are trying to introduce, that is why some others people are saying, be careful. This electoral process may actually suggest to awekela to avoid 50+1. Because how do you want to define a candidate that only relates to the first past the post system? The definition of a candidate in the current electoral law relates to a system that uses the majoritarian system, the 50+1. These plus many others are things that we are going to be discussing in local parliament. So I implore you to take a moment and listen to this conversation and see how the Electoral Commission of Zambia is setting the stage for trouble in this country. Now, this for me is what troubles me. Just yesterday, I was making a submission. I was making a reservation why the president is now appointing cadres to be the one managing the ECZ. Remember, McDonald Chipenzi was a full-time UPND member. If you're not comfortable with the word cadre, even civil servants are said to be cadre. The word cadre is not a demeaning word. It's a very normal word, except it's associated with the hooliganism, but it's not like that. So when I say cadre, I'm not in any way demeaning anyone. Even civil servants, you hear words like a cadre of civil servants. Mayinza McDonald Chipenzi is a non-political participant or player in the UPND before he was appointed to go to the ECZ. The same is for Mayoba Mwangala Zalomis. She was a full-time member of the UPND. So the appointment of these two, for me, you have picked cadres to manage the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Lelo. We have also added another cadre, Sevyanji. Now, forget about the qualification. They are qualified. I spoke yesterday about reward system. Political parties reward cadres, and it is normal everywhere in the world where you reward cadres, for their loyalty. I was a cadre also in PF, and I was rewarded. I was given DC for my loyalty. Such position as DC, PS, and any other boards, you can reward your party followers or your party members in those positions. You cannot, however, reward the positions at the Electoral Commission of Zambia because of the sensitivity at the ECZ. The ECZ is supposed to instill public trust. The members of the ECZ, the commissioner, should not show bias. Forgive me. They must not be, rather, the commission must be independent. Now, anyone who is affiliated to a political party cannot in any way fail to show bias or cannot act independently. And those are ways in which the public would lose trust in the credibility of elections. There will be so many petitions based on the perceived bias and all these things. So, you see why I have been expressing these reservations of the people that are being appointed to ECZ. It's a decision such as the attempted amendments, the proposed amendment to the electoral law. If these amendments goes through, there's going to be trouble in this country, because it will change completely how elections are managed. That is why I want to appeal to balas, lawyers, eminent people in this country. Please stand up and defend your country and say no to these machinations. What am I supposed to do? I'm here to just tell you, pay attention to today. Today is a crucial day that will redefine the democratic fabric of this country. Today, Mukesanjibukisha many years Kuntanj is a day when our country is going to tread on a thin line. Lelo. Lesampale, God bless you. I hope you will not come and ask, why didn't you tell us? I am telling you, today, the ECZ, the UPND are about to do the unthinkable. They are about to mutilate, rape our constitution with impunity on the basis of the arrogance of numbers they enjoy at parliament. Shalom, shalom. Pay attention to today. God bless you. Have a lovely weekend.